Hi everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be going over my recent reads. So far I have read a total of 9 books. Again, really didn't mean to do that, but it just ended up happening. So there you have it. When will I stop? Never. But I read a lot of really good books so far. Honestly, the vast majority of these are going to be 5 stars, whereas only one was like 2, 3 if I'm being generous, but I've had a really good reading situation so far, so let's get started. The first book that I read this month was That's Mental by Amanda Rosenberg. I had wanted to read this in August and it just didn't work out for me. I got too excited about Summerween. So I don't regret not reading it when I did, because when I did finally pick it up, I really could not put this book down. Absolutely 5 stars. This is Amanda Rosenberg's memoir about her life with bipolar disorder. I guess I would kind of give a trigger warning. Obviously, we're talking about depression. We're talking about attempts at suicide and death of a family member in this. So just to let you know before going into this. But this is actually really funny. Amanda Rosenberg is hilarious. I laughed out loud quite a few times when I was reading this book, and it was actually really, really good for several different reasons. Obviously informative, but at the same time, there were a lot of things that she mentions in here that I think a lot of us are guilty of. Advice or phrases that, you know, we give to some of our friends, and obviously we mean well, but it really does nothing. Like, it's just not necessary at times. So I know I've been guilty of doing the, well, have you tried this? And have you tried that? No, don't do that. And even though it's not coming from a bad place, it's always good to remind yourself that, you know, just be there to listen. Ask your friends or your family what they need and how you could possibly help them. But the unsolicited advice and some of the other ways that we really are trying and we mean well, just probably stop. But anyway, I would definitely recommend this. I think I already said this was 5 stars. If not, 5 stars. Absolutely. The next book I read was Lifting as We Climb by Yvette Dion. So my husband got me this at the end of August, I believe. I saw this book mentioned on Twitter, and as soon as I kind of like figured out what it was about, I put it on my Amazon wish list and he got it for me. And this was great. Another 5-star book. It's one of those things where it's hard to, obviously this is something I enjoyed, but at the same time, it's so frustrating when you learn the truth about things. It's not like this is the first time I've learned about the sexism and racism that Black activists experienced when trying to get their right to vote, but it still is frustrating to read it again. But 2 things that I went ahead and wrote down that I think perfectly explains the book is when people learn about the long fight for women's suffrage in the US, it's often an incomplete lesson. Very true. And I hope this book serves as an intro to the overlooked and forgotten Black women who helped permanently reshape America. It celebrates their triumphs, honors their sacrifices, and gives the stickers and flowers they long deserved. I would absolutely recommend this book, and I don't care if it kind of sounds cheesy, but I think that this should be required reading. I think one thing that is really bad about, of the many things, but one of the things that's really frustrating about the country that we live in is that a lot of the time, a lot of information is so sanitized that you don't get the whole picture. So when we're talking about, you know, women's fight for the right to vote, a lot of the time you're only getting it from the perspective of like the 2 main white women that we constantly hear about, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and I can't remember the other lady's name. And sometimes you might hear about Sojourner Truth, but there's so many other Black women in this book that Yvonne talks about that we don't hear about. In my opinion, you can't have one without the other. We can't have the conversation about, oh, women's right to vote without also talking about the Black women who were there constantly experiencing racism along with this fight. And it wasn't just it wasn't just about getting the right to vote for Black women, it was also improving the lives of Black people in America, because a lot of Black women who got into this fight were also trying to pass anti-lynching legislation, and unfortunately a lot of the well-known women and faces shut that down. That's really disappointing, but that's a reality, and it's something that I do absolutely believe people need to know. Come on. I mean, and when we're talking about women's right to vote, you know, Black women may have been given the right that day. I can't remember what year. I'm sorry. That's terrible of me. But there was poll taxes. There were literacy tests. And then there was the possibility that you would be assaulted or killed for actually voting. And there were quite a few people who were. It's the same thing that happened when Black men were given the right to vote. Eventually things were created, like the poll tax, to stop Black people from voting. So that's just a reality that people need to have. And that's that on that. So yes, 5 stars, I would definitely recommend this. Next, I finished the last 5 volumes of Akame ga Kill 0. Who's surprised that I loved it? I didn't even necessarily want to read this at the very beginning of September, but I did, and I don't regret it. I love Akame. She's my favorite character. Honestly, if I could find some Akame figures, that would be amazing. If they made a line of Akame ga Kill figures, my pockets would hurt, period. That's just the truth. But anyway, this series is really good. It's obviously, like I've said, like I've mentioned this like 3 times, I think. It's the prequel to Akame ga Kill, where we're seeing Akame working for the Empire before she, you know, gets away from that and works with Night Raid. I loved this whole series because you kind of see how she interacts. She sometimes doesn't even realize that she's interacting with characters that we've seen already in Akame ga Kill. So I think at one point she kind of crossed paths with Bowles. That was really cute to see him again. Chelsea is in this because she worked for the Orbergs. And, you know, you see an agenda, and you finally get to see at the very end all of the people that she ends up with in Night Raid. And then it ends with us seeing Tatsumi and his friends. That was really sad. But yeah, I really liked this. I hate how long it takes for Akame to finally, like, get away from them. But, I mean, if you've been brainwashed since childhood, I mean, what the hell do you expect? I'm probably gonna be stuck with them. But yeah, I loved this series. I also would suggest reading Akame ga Kill, because there's also a few things in Akame ga Kill that did not happen in the anime, so just so you know. Anyway, please read. I also read Women's War by Jenna Glass, and holy shit, I really loved this. It's been a really long time, not really that long, it's been since May, I had to go back and look, since I've read a fantasy that was over 500 pages. I loved this. It was so hard to put this down, and I don't know that I did this on purpose, but I probably had this on my bookshelf for a year now. I don't remember exactly when this came out, but I know I probably either got this at the beginning of this year or at the end of last year. It's been on there for some time. And the last book I read that was over 500 pages and was a fantasy was Bloody Rose. And I really didn't end up enjoying that. And what I was trying to get at was, I don't know if I kind of just put down chunky fantasy books because I was very, like, turned off by Bloody Rose. But I'm glad I picked this up. This was good. 5 stars. So far, all 5 stars, come on. I'm gonna have a hard time explaining this, but there's lots going on. It should be like 6 different perspectives. 5 of them are women. And these women are kind of like spanned across this entire continent, island? It's hard to say. They're all in different kingdoms, basically. And then 1 male perspective. And basically, we meet these people a little bit before this world-altering spell that benefits women mostly has been unleashed into the world. And all of the female characters are amazing. I loved every single one of them. And even though you absolutely hate the male character, he is supposed to be hated, I still liked that because he was just so well written. But oh god, it's so hard to talk about this without giving a lot away. Where do I go about this? I will definitely say though that this was kind of, I mean it's literally like, this is a feminist book, and I agree, mainly because of the spell. So basically on the front, it's blurred by someone named Nicola Griffith, and it's Me Too and resistance through the lens of epic fantasy. Yes, honestly, that's the best way to describe it. But yeah, so how the fuck do I talk about this book? I don't know. It was just really good. Honestly, I think that all of the characters are amazing. I wasn't even halfway through this book before I had to look and see if there was a second book. There was, and I immediately bought it. And I have it now. So I'm even giving myself a week of a break before I read it because so much happened and the ending really crushed me that it's like, I don't know if I'm ready, but obviously I'm gonna fucking read this book this month. I can't help myself. But the plot itself is really cool. Basically, everyone is capable of working with magic, and magic elements are floating all around you. Of course, you know, this is a more patriarchal society, so it's encouraged for men to develop magic, develop their magical skill. They're creating these complex magic spells for defense and, you know, all this other stuff. Technically, women can use magic as well. It's frowned upon if you are a woman of status. I can't even remember what the damn term is, but you know, if you were a queen or a lady, you would not be messing with magic like that. But every single person can open their mind's eye and see the magical elements around them. So it's kind of frowned upon if you're a lady who does that. But women who are divorced, shunned, exiled, and get sent to the Abbey, become Abigails, they work with magic and they create spells that are like for healing. It's considered women's magic. And unfortunately, when you're sent to the Abbey, you are forced into prostitution for the kingdom. So a lot of your spells are also going to have to do with, you know, what's that damn thing called? Viagra for men. And also you're basically helping, you know, you might be a midwife, so on and so forth. But there is this spell that basically gives women more autonomy over their reproductive, well, they really have no reproductive rights, but their reproduction. And that just sets this whole world aflame because so much stuff happens when this spell is unleashed. And honestly, it's just such a great book. I think it's a really good fantasy book. I like the magic system in it. The politics within it are really good, and everything was just paced really well, and I just could not put it down. I could not put this book down to save my life. So I'd absolutely recommend it, and I can't wait to read the second one because the way that this one ended really broke my heart. I'm surprised I didn't cry, but I think I knew it was happening. I think I knew that was going to happen, unfortunately. Even though I was really holding out hope till the very end that would not be the outcome. And I might be wrong. She might surprise me. But I have a feeling that she's not. So my heart is broken. And I just have to go into this next book with my heart broken. So I hate my life. And the last book that I literally finished last night and is my 99th book of the year. Look at me. Was Wilder Girls by Rory Power. So I just finished this last night, like I said, and you know, I rated this 2 stars, maybe 2.5. I did not hate this book by any means, but I was not totally entertained by it. You know, So I've mentioned this before. When I'm reading a book that I'm really into, it can be very hard for me not to skim read and read very quickly because I'm just so excited and I really want to get to what's the deal? Like, where are we going? What's the end? Like, I can't, I'm so anxious and I'm so excited to know what's going to happen. So there's that part of like the speed reading, kind of skimming through, honestly, sometimes even skipping chapters. I don't really ever do that when I'm excited about a book, but if it's like a bunch of filler stuff, I'm not really losing anything if I don't read about the foliage that grows in this part of the kingdom every winter and blah, blah, blah. I'm not losing anything if I don't read that part. And then there's when I'm not entertained by a book and I am just so bored. And Wilder Girls was like that. I skipped so many chapters, mainly Byatt's chapters where she's just kind of having like a rambling fever dream that really added nothing to the story for me. It was okay. Like, I liked the characters. I really liked Hetty. I was intrigued by Reese and Byatt. But I was basically at 25% of the way into the book and I really wanted to put it down. I did not want to keep reading it. I was very, very bored. There was a lot of descriptive words that I feel gave me personally nothing that I was interested in when it came to the book. I mean, I'm just being honest, but I went and read the synopsis again, and it's not a spoiler, but Byatt disappears, and I was like, oh, okay, I actually really want to know what happens with that, even though I pretty much figured that out earlier on. I knew that was going to happen. So I did push through, but you know, that I finished it in a night because I skipped so much. It just did not keep my attention whatsoever. And so I guess here, this chunk of what I'm about to say is kind of like a spoiler. So skip this part if you didn't read it and you don't want to be spoiled. But I've read government lab created Parasite before, and it's been done better in my opinion. Parasite and Feed by Mira Grant, a lot better than this. I just read Nick Cutter, The Troop, and same thing, government created Parasite. That was a really good book to me. This one was just not giving it to me. Like, it's like there is that part of me that wants to know what happens to Hetty, Reese, and Byatt in the end. Like, what happens to them? They're in the boat. Where did they go? Did they get in touch with Hetty's dad? But at the same time now I'm like, I actually don't think I really care, because I don't know what was even happening. I don't know. I just don't really know what to make of that book. I wouldn't not recommend it. I'm not saying I would not recommend it. I wouldn't say that don't read it, but just for me personally, it was not that great. And when I was done with it, I was really glad that I got that on a Kindle deal for like $1.99, because I had kind of considered buying that physical copy, and I'm really glad I didn't, because I will probably never read this book again. Yeah, I don't see myself doing it, but if you chopped out a lot of the descriptions of stuff, I would have been far more entertained, even if it was still pretty short. But yeah, other than that, just no, not for me. No. So yeah, but anyway, so there you have it. That's really it. So I've read 9 books so far. I've got a few books that I'm interested in reading. I mean, right now I'm reading Middle Game by Seanan McGuire, and it's good so far. I mean, I like Mira Grant books more than I like Seanan McGuire books, and this one isn't bad, but it's definitely like giving me like these moments of like wayward children in the way that some of the things are written. But that's okay, because I didn't hate that series. I didn't hate that series of books that Seanan McGuire did, but I'm more of a adult Mira Grant fan. So yeah. So we shall see what is up next. I did film a unboxing of figures, and we'll see what I do with that. Obviously it's my first time, so I'm not gonna be too hard on myself, but we shall see. But anyway, thanks you guys, and you have a great day. Goodbye.